Stephen A. Smith joins us now. And, you know, Stephen A., one of the things that really stands out about this situation tonight is the word legacy, especially Giannis. Yeah. When you talk about him deciding to stay in Milwaukee and sign the Supermax and decide to become a Buck long term, what would winning a title tonight mean for his legacy as well as the city of Milwaukee?
Well, first of all, it's going to be a tremendous thing for his legacy. The fact that he's one of the great players in the game, a reigning two-time league MVP. You take that into consideration along with the fact that you stay in Milwaukee, you sign for $245 million. You don't depart for a bigger market with a super team joining forces and shifting the balance of power, and instead you stay put. Guys come to you and you ultimately win a championship. That says a lot about you. When you do it with such a level of dominance, averaging 32 and 13 in the NBA Finals, that also contributes to the level of dominance. So we got to take all of those things into consideration. But more importantly than anything else, what a huge, huge lift it would be for the National Basketball Association, because rather than big-time superstars trying to join forces to capture a championship, you have him as the standard to point to say you don't necessarily have to do that. You don't need to have another superstar or two other superstars. You could be a superstar and you could have two all-stars with you and you could still get it done. That is the story that would be written about Giannis Antetokounmpo if he was able to capture a championship tonight in Game 6, or if it goes to a Game 7, captures it Thursday night. That's what everybody would be saying about him, and he'll deserve it.
Okay, now, yesterday on this same show, SportsCenter, Kendrick Perkins said that CP3 needs CPR. You told our L. Duncan that. When you hear that kind of statement, and you see this team has lost 3 straight, and you're trying to find out what happened to Chris Paul from what we saw in that first game to where we are right now, what does he need to do tonight to force a Game 7?
I think he needs to know his personnel better and know who to get the ball to and when, and dictate the action from that vantage point. The Milwaukee Bucks are bigger, stronger, more physical, more athletic. They know it, and they expect to be playing downhill tonight. They're going to go in attack mode. That's what some of them told me last night. And so when you look at it from that perspective, now we transition to what the Phoenix Suns need to do. The only way it seems that the Phoenix Suns can beat this Milwaukee Bucks team is if guys play like stars and you're hitting shots from the perimeter. CP3 scoring 21 and having 11 assists, that's a plus. Devin Booker dropping 40 in back-to-back games, that's a plus. But you're going to have to get a third wheel involved. And even though DeAndre Ayton had 20 and 10, that's not enough. He's a lone ranger on the front line. We know that he needs all the help that he can get, and it's going to have to come from the perimeter. So to me, Monty Williams and CP3 have to collaborate with one another to make sure they get somebody else involved. My selection would be Cam Johnson. This brother shoots better than 47% from the field, better than 45% from three-point range. He's got a lot of potential, and he's been open. They need to find him, get him more involved, get him the damn ball, and pray that it's enough to ward off Milwaukee in Game 6. That's what you need to do.
Last 2 games have been fantastic. We'll see if CP3's leadership can stand out, especially in the final minute of the game. Stephen A. Smith not going anywhere, going to join us later on SportsCenter, as well as his own SportsCenter.
Listen, the Bucks are a win away from a championship, Kevin, and it's largely because of the freak factor, because of Giannis. Listen, they've got contributions from Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, no doubt, but Giannis is really what breathed life back into this series, especially after falling down 2-0. He put together a mountain of a performance in Game 3. 41 points, grabbed 13 rebounds, became the 3rd player in finals history with back-to-back 40-point double-doubles, joining only LeBron and Shaq. And no moment shows the Greeks' impact on the defensive end more than this, of course. The block of DeAndre Ayton in Game 4. It's going to be iconic for Milwaukee. In the final 4 minutes of that game, he had 2 blocks, in fact, and a steal. He became the only player with 2 blocks and a steal in the final 4 minutes of a finals game in NBA history. And then more iconic pictures, right? The alley-oop in Game 5, capping off a 32.9 rebound performance that let's just enjoy this. That catapulted the Bucks to a 3-2 series lead. Giannis looking to become the 3rd player in NBA history to win a league MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and a Finals MVP, and he could be just the 3rd person to do it at age 26 or younger. As we say hello to PTI's Michael Wilbon, who's going to be joining SportsCenter with Stephen A. At 7:30 here on ESPN. So thanks for taking a little time with us right now. I do want to ask you this because it's a very unsexy topic, but if there's If there's one source of criticism for the Bucks that has sort of been withstanding, it is that of their coach, Coach Budenholzer, right? People have called him everything from bullish, talked about his inability to adjust, his rigidity. But his team has responded time and time again, and now, Mike, they are a win away from a championship. How much credit does Coach Bud deserve?
Oh, that's a great question, Elle. He deserves a lot of credit, and he's going to get a lot of credit if they win this series. There are other things that you have to do to prepare a team besides in-game adjustments. That's not the only dynamic that a coach is responsible for. He has been taking criticism. And you know what, Elle? It's fair. When you look at some of the things that happened earlier in the playoffs, like not playing Bobby Portis games 5, 6, and 7 against Kevin Durant in the Nets, when you need somebody with that length and that defensive ability coming off the bench, and he just didn't play him. And it's a fair criticism, at least a fair question, but again, not the only thing that a coach has to do to prepare a team. So certainly coming into a season, coming into a series, coming into a game, and his own players seem to have a lot of respect for him, even if that criticism about in-game adjustments is fair. So it may not even matter in-game, but there's a long way to go between now and the parade route they're preparing outside this arena. I mean, they're gonna have to win before he gets that kind of credit.
Exactly, and to the Suns' point, they're going to have to win 2 straight to make this happen. How do they stay alive and make this a series?
Well, they got to have more than just, Booker, or more than just Booker and Chris Paul. They got to have a full team, and that's what the Suns did so well in the regular season to get to be the 2nd seed in the entire league, and in the playoffs to eliminate, the Clippers, the Lakers, Denver, a sweep. That's what they did. They had everybody playing well in that ensemble, not just loading up. DeAndre Ayton's got to go back to the way he played in the first 2/3 of the playoffs, not in these last few games. I know he had 20 and 10 the other night, but that was hollow compared to some of the games he had earlier. They're going to need everybody. They're going to need 5 or 6 guys contribute, and I mean heavily. And yes, Booker and Paul have to be the stars that lead the way, but this can't be one of the games where they sit around looking. And I know they're young players, Elle. They don't have any prior experience with playing in the clutch at that level. Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, but those are 2 of the guys. Jay Crowder, of course, has had some of that experience. All 3 of those guys are going to have to contribute pretty heavily tonight just to get out of this game. Then, if they can get out of this game, start talking about Thursday back in Phoenix for Game 7.
We've been talking about the narrative around the Suns being their inexperience. They have yet to find themselves facing elimination in this playoff run. In fact, they've only been down at one time in a series, and that was early on to the Lakers. We'll see what they do with their backs against the Mall. Michael Wilbon's actually not going anywhere. He's going to be, of course, on with Stephen A., but also coming back here to look ahead to tonight's Game 6.
Tick, tick. Just over 2.5 hours away from Game 6, and look at the Deer District. Hell, you were talking about this with me yesterday. 65,000 fans ready to watch maybe their Bucks win their first title in 50 years. And we will get you ready for that game over on ABC later on tonight. By the way, one of the key figures for the Bucks to be in this position, if they have won 3 in a row, Chris Middleton, he's been on another level in clutch time in this series. He has 14 points in clutch time, which is defined as the last 5 minutes of a game when a team is leading or trailing by 5 points or fewer. Now, when you see that roll, look at how that stacks up to this. The rest of the players in this series have just 13 points in clutch time. That's less than Middleton by himself. More on the man, Chris, now.
Treating it like every regular season game that we've had, every playoff game that we had. Taking one game at a time, and every game is a must-win.
You can feel the excitement in the city, and last time we were in NBA Finals was 1974. So I'm happy that the fans are enjoying it. 20,000 people in the arena, 25,000 people outside the arena. We got to do our job, and then they can do their job celebrating at the end.
Obviously, we were frustrated after the loss. But we're a type team that realized that's over. Whatever we do forward is going to determine whatever our future is going to be. So, everybody's going to have to give a little bit more.
This is our first elimination game. You know what I mean? So it's for real. There's no looking back now. We got to come out, be ready to play. It's either win or go home.
It all comes down to 2.5 hours from now. Sports Center on the Road, presented by Rocket Mortgage, as we welcome in our reporter, Dave McMenamin, who's been covering the Suns for us, and our NBA analyst, Tim Legler. And I'm going to start with you, Dave. What sort of adjustments could we see the Suns make tonight as they try to stave elimination?
Well, a lot of the talk after Game 5, when they went up 16 points in the first quarter, was their offense going stagnant in the second and third. They shot almost 70% as a team for the game, but they only got 19 attempts. So it's going to come down to trying to work the ball around, move it side to side, get the defense shifted so you can find cracks in that defense and play with pace. You know, this Suns team is devastating when they get Devin Booker the ball in the open court. Now, the Bucks have been playing a type of defense that is kind of allowing Booker to go one-on-one and then clamping down on the shooters around them. They're going to have to try to move the defense around to get better opportunities. They had Booker going. They had Chris Paul going in Game 5. There wasn't a lot going from guys like DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges. That can make a difference tonight in Game 6.
That's the point, right? Is that it's not like they haven't been eating. Devin Booker making history for how many points he has in losing efforts. Thank you, Dave. And we bring in Tim Legler to do his pick and roll. We're going to do a little over-under stuff. I'm going to start with the Bucks. Giannis, combined points, rebounds, assists, is set at 51.5 legs. You like the over-under?
Yeah, I like the over. I mean, I think Giannis, it's going to be tough to keep him under 30. So assuming he's north of 30, I think he's going to be somewhere in that 12 to 15 rebound range. And he's been getting 5-6 assists a game in this series. I just don't think the Suns have a lineup that is big enough across the board that really causes him a lot of problems. DeAndre Ayton is the one guy that's got the length to play him. But when he gets a switch or he gets in transition or he gets by Ayton, the rest of that secondary help are smaller guys, and it's the kind of defense that he feasts on. So I think Giannis goes over that number in a big way.
Okay, how about his partner? Over under 25.5 points for Chris Middleton tonight.
I like the over on this as well. He's going to be somewhere probably right around that number. It all comes down to, is he going to shoot the ball efficiently? Chris Middleton right now, I think, is in that zone. He's very confident against this team. Coming off of what he did in Game 5, I expect Chris Middleton to look for his own shot aggressively early in the game to find his rhythm. He seems like it's a different night for him. When that happens, I can see Chris Middleton going for 26 plus.
By the way, he's averaging 29 points per game in his last 3 games. What about the over-under at 21.5 points for CP3?
Yeah, I'm going to go under on that. I think he's capable, but I also think the Milwaukee Bucks right now have him in a good place, and they're going to try to keep him there. So even if Chris Paul can find some legs, he looks more rejuvenated tonight, not as worn down. I think even if he has success early, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to make sure that this is the guy that they target. I just think they believe he is the guy they can go after with full court pressure by running different physical bodies at him and try to take away that middle area of the floor that he is so dominant and as he was in Game 1, and he will be targeted. I think getting to 20 is going to be tough for Chris Paul.
All right, so you took the Suns to win this series before it all started. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I did too. They're facing elimination on the road. So who wins Game 6 and why, Legs?
Well, listen, I picked the Suns in 7. I guess that dream is still alive, El, right? They just got to win a game on the road and then go home for that Game 7. We know historically what happens in Game 7 of NBA Finals. The home team, I think, is 15-4, I believe, at home in a Game 7 in the finals. So if the Suns can just do it on the road. But I think the Milwaukee Bucks are not going to let this opportunity slip through their fingers. I think ultimately they've got 3 different guys that can win any matchup in front of them right now. Jrue Holiday, he can fluctuate. I know he was 4 for 20 in Game 4. He came back in a strong way in Game 5. But I'm pretty confident what I'm going to see out of Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've got more answers right now, I think, than the Phoenix Suns do. Devin Booker has been absolutely sensational. 2 consecutive games, and it still wasn't enough for this team to win. At some point, Devin Booker's probably going to come back to earth. If that happens, I don't know how you get to the number you need to against the Milwaukee Bucks. Can you guard that team enough, El, throughout the course of 48 minutes? Certainly couldn't do it in Game 5. I think the Bucks are going to use that energy tonight, and they're going to get a championship.
If the Bucks don't win tonight, what are the odds that all over the internet we're going to see 65,000 fans in the Deer Park district, right, with the crying emoji from Michael Jordan plastered on their face? Good God. Bucks 9-1 at home in these playoffs, so we'll see their lone loss coming to the Hawks. There's Giannis. 3 straight games with 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He is undoubtedly going to be the Finals MVP should they win tonight or win at all. Chris Middleton has been absolutely fantastic, though. He's a guy you love to root for, keeps his head down, does it quietly, but boy, has he been big.
Incredible. So for tonight's Game 6, and well, that's not good news for Chris Paul. Paul-led teams have lost 11 consecutive playoff games in which CP3 plays and Foster is an official. Let's welcome back Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon live from Milwaukee. Stephen A., okay, we're told not to pay attention to that kind of stuff, but when you see and you hear that kind of number and Scott Foster and CP3 in the relationship, should the Suns be aware of this heading into the game?
Without question, you got to pay attention to all of this. Remember, unfortunately, at this particular moment in time, I got to bring up and remind the audience, I'm a Knicks fan. I remember Hugh Hollins saving the day for us against Chicago Bulls minus Michael Jordan with Scottie Pippen.
Hugh Hollins to me.
That's right. I know that. I remember that stuff. Officials definitely can have an impact. And in this particular case, Kevin and Wilbon, here's the bottom line. You're the Phoenix Suns. You're thin on your front line. Dario Saric is out. Frank Kaminsky ain't going to get any time. It's really about DeAndre Ayton. Just imagine for a second, as depleted as the Phoenix Suns are on their front line, if DeAndre Ayton found himself getting into some foul trouble. You already know Milwaukee's coming. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're more physical. They know it, and they see that it's contributed to their level of success. So just imagine, Wilbon, if DeAndre Ayton got in foul trouble in Game 6 tonight, what that could spell for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I'm of two minds about this. I'm conflicted because part of it just looks bad for the league to have this assignment with Scott Foster knowing what we know with Chris Paul. And by the way, I'm not putting all of this on Chris Paul.
Right.
I mean, Scott Foster's a human being.
Yes, right.
There are mistakes that he has made. There are times where he had too quick a temper and his fuse shouldn't have been where it lit the way it was. So the league could do a better job. There are enough terrific officials in this league to not have to have Scott Foster on an elimination game with Chris Paul. And Chris Paul this is not Dennis Rodman.
That's right.
This is not somebody who's some wild card who has no respect for any of the referees in this league. So I'm a little bothered by it, but I also understand the league wants to make that assignment, not apparently paying attention to history, personal history.
I get it.
But it's an issue.
Let's remind the audience, Chris Paul is also the president of the NBA Players Association. That's a point to point out. Let's move on to this different subject, Mike. You got the Suns path to victory, Game 6. I'm imagining it's not just about what Devin Booker does. It's not just about what CP3 does. Of course, you want some contribution from DeAndre Ayton. How many games have I been sitting next to you preaching about the importance of getting Cam Johnson the basketball? Somebody who's a bona fide marksman, who's a shooter that isn't afraid of the moment and can put the ball in the hole. I think that could potentially be a key for the Phoenix Suns tonight if they were to capture victory, which I think is a long shot, by the way. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't even think potentially. Cam Johnson, to me, needs to play north of 20 minutes. All right? Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, Jay Crowder. The whole ensemble has to be really, really good to great tonight. Not just, I don't believe in the X factor and which guy can come help. No. CP3 and Devin Booker are going to need all those guys, not in support, but playing well the way they did in the second half of the regular season, the way they did against the Lakers in those 3 straight wins, 4 straight wins against Denver. Remember, the Suns won 9 consecutive playoff games. They did that by getting contribution from everyone. They're going to need it tonight.
We're looking at the screen right now, and we see the Greek freak himself, Giannis Antetokounmpo, averaging 32 and 12 in this NBA Final Series. An NBA Final Series that both you and I speculated whether or not he should have even played the first 2 games because of that hyper-extended knee. But here he is on the verge of capturing his first championship, just 48 minutes away from pulling it off if he's successful. When we think about what Giannis, the champion, would mean to the Bucks, we can come up with a lot of things. What about if Giannis is a champion, what it could do for the NBA as a whole? Your thoughts, Mike?
Well, it could stop a lot of players, or at least slow them down from looking at small market teams they might be drafted by or traded to as just incidental to their life and development. No, the San Antonio Spurs won a few of these, and even as recently as 2014, I guess was the last one, with Tim Duncan and those guys not going anywhere.
Right.
Giannis is different than Kareem. Kareem knew he was going to wind up going to either coast and wound up being in LA. Giannis is signed. Giannis says he's staying right here. No reason to doubt him. That's a big deal, I think, Stephen A. When you look at so many players wanting to use a few big markets as destinations to assemble a super team, Giannis didn't do that. And all of a sudden, maybe some players look at this and say, you know what? I'm comfortable living in this community, whether it's big market or not. I'm staying here. I can win here.
I want to bring it back to the basketball court because here's where I'm at with it, Mike. It's not just about wanting to stay in the community. It's about having a belief in yourself that you can pull this off without needing other superstars to do it with you. Drew Holiday has played like a superstar in some games. Middleton has played like a superstar in some games, and we've seen how pure his mid-range game is. But nobody has looked at them and called them bona fide superstars in the league who also happen to be box office. Nobody has viewed them that way. And to me, winning with Giannis shows a whole bunch of people in the basketball world, yeah, I might not be a superstar, but I'm a star. I'm an all-star, and I'm good enough to play with that guy and to win a championship. Not just Giannis. All of a sudden, you look at a plethora of stars or superstars in the league that don't have that number 2, that number 3, and all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, excuse me, I don't need another superstar. I just need a star who knows how to be consistent and do their job. To that you say what?
I can support that star.
That's right.
But you know what, Stephen A., we agree. You talked about the basketball court part of it. I'm talking about that, but also the marketing part of it and how the league sells itself. There are a lot of young players who are potentially stars who maybe ought to look at it that way. Let's face it, in this league and sports in general, you look to the person who proves it. And if Giannis does that tonight or Thursday night, I think it changes the dynamic and it influences the way he becomes an influencer in two different ways, on the court and off of it.
You know, you just said or Thursday night. You know, you just said that.
I just said
that was on purpose. I think that was on purpose. I think that was on purpose. It wouldn't have something to do with the fact that Milwaukee's just 2 hours from Chicago, huh? You heard him, Kevin Nagandi. You see how he is? A Chicago homer to the end, even when he's 2 hours away in Milwaukee. Back to you.
We know his ties as well to Phoenix, too. Our dynamic duo, they are, of course, superstars. More from Stephen A. hosting Sports Center, 7:30 Eastern, and Michael Wilbon back with us top of the hour for more on Giannis's legacy if the Bucks win tonight. Elle?
That's right.